All right, let's make sure to play our system properly here. D4, we're going to start with knight F6. It can be played with the white pieces and the black pieces. Let's go D6 here. E3. Knight D7. So we want to play E5, and I've been kind of waiting for something like this to happen where maybe our opponents try to make it a bit difficult to play. They can never actually prevent us, which is the nice thing about this system. I will say here, there's a full other option of playing knight H5, because due to this pawn, we actually may get our hands on that bishop. So as I move up the ranks, I may be a little bit more interested in a quick knight H5 here. But for now, I'm just going to play C6. Very much in line with the moves that we want to play in our system here. And next move, Queen C7. Our opponent also has a system, so this is system against system right now. We can play E5, but we definitely want to play... That's a weird move right there. We want to play this with getting E5 in, and keeping in mind the goal is really to take that dark squared bishop. So we're going at each other here, system v system. I don't understand this Queen A4 move, I have to say. We've already played C6. Doesn't really do anything. White's most likely just going to retreat that bishop to G3. Can't see a better move. I can see a worse one though. Isn't it amazing, guys? I play this system. I'm literally minding my own business. I'm not doing anything. Why do they always take on E5? I mean, no disrespect, but can't you count? Like, they all do it. Why do they all... They do it the exact same way. They always blunder. Don't tell me, like, what are we cooking up here? Don't tell me it's this. I'm struggling here. Bruh. What is this? These guys are like max creativity. I mean, in some ways it's genius, but in every other way it's not. Like, I see the vision, but I don't really see the vision. I'm just saying, guys, I'm sitting here truly minding my own business. Truly minding my own business. I'm not trying to like beat the guy with tactics. I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, GM, precious noob, easy dub, like take him out back, do him dirty. No, I'm just trying to play my opening system. Not trying to cause any problems. And then I'm sitting here on move 13 and I'm up the bishop pair. Like I just got an extra bishop pair. This was not my intention. We're supposed to play a nice slow moving game. No problemo. This was an accident, is what I'm trying to say. A full accident. Ooh, respect. We can play this one to get it out this way. We can play this one to get it out that way. This one to take on A4. I feel like that's a pretty high yield move, but we'll go with the tried and true. Especially because that will get me an extra trade, which I'm happy with. But yeah, we got too many people trying to do too many things here. Okay, it's smart of him to refuse the trade, so I'll definitely give him some credit there. Do not want to trade pieces in general when you're down 2 of them. Definitely the right decision from our friendly Canadian opponent here. A5. Let's get castled. Keep it simple. But yeah, 2 extra bishops. Oh no, he goes for the trade now. All the credit I handed you, I take it back. No, I can't give you credit for that one, bud. Oh, this is... Oh, no. Oh, no. We're maybe eyeballing some stuff over here. Couple checks. Let's give a check. Kind of curious where he decides to go here. Because it's possible that he kind of just like walks himself into some mates. I mean, I assume we'll see this, but you know, the possibility is indeed always there. I can see the potential here. It's a good move there. We'll just take a step back for the moment. Maybe G5 could be one of the nicer moves here. These bishops are pretty nasty. I would say at this point, King H8 and Rook G8 is the way to go. And yeah, with Rook takes G2 here. Should lead to some sort of mate soon. GG to got silver. GG, buddy. Tough one, tough one. But guys, I'm really excited to get to some middle games and really get into the system here. But I'm sitting here, I'm playing E5, and they're just taking it for no reason. Of course, I'm expecting Bishop G3. So just to let you know, as soon as we're in a position like this, I decided to play this, keep it really systematic at first, but definitely against someone a bit higher rated, or eventually in this series, you'll see me play Knight H5 because the bishop just can't escape at this point. Like, it can't escape being captured. And this is also pretty nice. But C6 and sticking with this plan is more than fine. It's just, even here after Bishop G3, I'd probably play Knight H5 and try to take the bishop. So we'll see in general how the London goes in the future. Got silver, did not get silver. He did though, didn't he? He finished second place in this game. Not a bad result. We have E4, which means we're not just going to play Knight F6, but we're going to play D6 first. E5. If you guys remember, we've seen this played in this series so far. And why did we say we are not concerned at all? Because we take, we trade. We've already played this. Literally just memory at this point. Knight G4. People are sometimes in a panic to defend this pawn. They drop that. And if they're in a panic to defend that pawn, they drop this. Either way, you're winning a pawn and you're just immediately crushing from the opening. White's just hyperactive, trying to play E5, thinking they're just going to win your piece outright. I mean, it's nonsense. Take, Knight G4, and the game's already over. Goes Knight F4. We could honestly go back at this point. Not sure if that's really the best option here, but it's definitely a consideration. Most likely a king move kind of handles things there, though. But the one thing about this is it brings the knight back to maybe the f6 square, which is a little bit more standard. And then we can go, okay, he actually retreats his knight, which is kind of funny. We'll just develop. Knight h3, I didn't expect that one. Bishop there. Let's just break the pin and get ready to castle. I already mentioned we're bringing our knight back to the f6 square. So let's do that. Okay, knight c3, so I think it's probably time to make this threat. He actually plays knight here, which accidentally may have defended everything. Like, I don't know what he saw. I don't know what he thought he saw. But I think he accidentally defended everything all at once. Okay, I'm going to go bishop f5 check. It looks like something. I don't really see a better... Oh, no. I was going to say, I don't really see a better move for me. We're going to take a free piece, though. That I will do. But, guys, if people play e4, d4, and then just e5 on you in the opening, and believe me, they will, there's not going to be a case where that just, like, does not exist. So that will happen. Just be prepared for it. Take, trade queens, knight g4, and you'll just be crushing. Okay, what can we do here? We have this hanging, this hanging, this hanging, this hanging, but so is our bishop, so it's kind of tough to say. I feel like at this point, honestly just going straight back with bishop to g6 might yield the best result, but okay. I'll take with check first. And I think we'll take this knight after. Yeah, it was helpful to get a trade in. And honestly, at this point, I'm not too sure which move to do. Oh, okay, I was expecting this. That got played instead. Knight takes the rook is definitely one of the better looking moves, but knight takes bishop. I'd rather, instead of winning a rook and losing a knight, I'd rather just take a free piece. And yeah, this should be a winning position now. Let's get the rest of our pieces out if we can. Okay, b4. Probably just taking is sufficient. First of all, I can definitely see that bishop being too far away. But on top of that, I think a3, knight d3 is a nice way to do things. I have knight c3 next after king e2, which does look possible. Bring in some artillery here. I think takes in knight e2 is going to be fairly convincing. Whether or, if he takes this knight or this knight, it doesn't matter. There's a knight going to e2. Sadly. And yeah, as I've been saying, the nice thing about this opening is it doesn't matter if you're white or black, you can make it work. Okay, we'll just clean up these pawns here. And 20 seconds should be more than enough time. We've done more with less. Maybe this will be the easiest just to take that, but I could also see him blundering knight f6. Check. Checkmate. GG. What can we say about this opening? Well, you guys know exactly what's going to be discussed. e5 is not a good move. The best thing about it, you're going to see people play it against you. That's a fact. There's no way you go from 400 to 1000 without seeing this numerous times. We've already encountered it a few times in this speed run. It's just going to happen. It's very tempting. Low-rated players, like, they move their pawns in the center. They got the central control. They're like, oh, I see a knight. Let me target that. Don't worry. I've already prepared you for that. They're going to play it. We're going to take, and you're going to be swimming in this position because this is completely over. We've already had someone defend this pawn and then just lose the rook. Now we had someone defend the f2 pawn, and then they lost the center pawn. Either way, it's completely dead. All right. We get to see the opening with the white pieces now. I like starting with knight f3. Okay, I can't say that this move is particularly good. Against f6, it's very difficult for me not to play e4 because we can only expect e5, which we'll lose on the spot. So, 1f6 is definitely not the move I would say. If you're really trying to play the opening, I would say you go something like this. But against the move f6, I have to say I'm curious after this if we're going to see e5, and we do. We're going to have to take. People who play f6 deserve nothing but punishment. And remember, e4 is very much in the wheelhouse of our opening, so we're not upset to be playing it. Not at all, right? That's a move that we play anyway. Now, we pretty much just want to get the bishop to h6, and then we'll be all good here. He could have taken us with check, but now we have the choice, bishop g5 or bishop h6. I think it's much simpler to play bishop h6 because we feel like we're kind of getting developed there. But the other way you could think of it is bishop g5 with the pin. knight d7, and then maybe knight c3 with knight d5 coming. That looks pretty darn convincing as well. Not sure which one I like more, but bishop g5 is, you know, it's very threatening, so I'll make the move that makes a threat. Bishop h6 threatens to trade. That's not a real threat. Knight c3 next, long castle, and yeah, we're never worried about our queen getting trapped. I shouldn't say never worried, but for the moment, it feels like we're okay, just because the bishop can never move. We see this. Unfortunately for my opponent, it's not really going to stop the move that I was intending, and this should be problematic here because you're going to lose a queen this way. And of course, if not losing a queen, it'll be, I wouldn't say something just as bad, but definitely something that's not good. Losing a full piece. So, what should we play here? Bishop takes, knight takes. Knight takes is a check, so feels like that's a good one to stick with. No, there's a free pawn, but you're not going to see me refuse a piece trade when up a rook, by the way, right? Count these up, they're even, and we just have that extra rook there. I'll stick with our castling habits. And yeah, we're up a rook. Don't need to do anything special at this point. Just, you know, push some pawns maybe. Try to trade some pieces if possible. I'll play the nice move a4 here. Just lock everything up. And then we can continue. We like the look of g5. Oh, we like it more now. Thank you kindly. Maybe we can get a nice little mate here for the home crowd fans. Oh yeah, this is what the people like. GG. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say we went too far off script here because, yeah, our setup is d3, knight d2, e4. But for sure, the move f6 is a terrible starting move. In fact, one of the worst in the game. And e5 is just a horrible follow-up. It loses on the spot to this. And that's it. That's all you need to know about that. Okay, against d4, we'll go with the knight first. d6 next. Okay, we're playing against another London. Knight d7, c6. So we've actually seen this before. Again, knight h5 will probably happen in time, but for the moment, I'm just going to play this, like, just to get the pieces on the board here. It's a little bit fortunate that our opponent played in the way they did because they might be bailed out of losing a piece here just by luck. You know, because it is pinned, but it's quite possible that they play this, or apologies, I forgot, the 800 level theory, just hanging a knight for no reason. This is like every single person plays it against me. You can't tell me that you're not going to see this in your games. I'm sitting here. They don't know this is a GM. They're all doing it. Go play this opening right now. I'm telling you, this free pieces are waiting for you. Let's unpin here. Okay, I think we're happy to take that. It's a trade after all. Hard to say no to making a mate threat. We have a couple good ways to refute it with tempo. Also, knight g6 goes for yet another trade. So I have to say, I'm pretty tempted by that as well, but I like f5. I like the move f5. Bishop doesn't really have a square to go to without allowing me to trade. And believe me, I'm going to trade because we get to trade all the pieces. Now we just have that one extra bishop. Great next move would be queen to g4 because the queen has no choice but to trade with me. And even though there's a free pawn there, nothing is more important than forcing the queens to be traded. and that should be an easy win. Yeah, now we have this extra bishop. Let's centralize it. This looks like a wicked strong piece right there. Rook e8, and yeah, most likely going to settle that bishop on the f3 square, and yeah, look to punch something home here. We can do the little stutter step, bishop f3, looking menacing with the rook in there, and then in case our poor opponent decides to play that, we can continue our journey to the g2 square. Yeah, I like this bishop on f3 here. Fantastic piece. And yeah, opponent is pretty much stuck. Can't move. Don't blame them on the resignation. Don't blame them on leaving the game either. Either way, a dub is a dub. d4 knight f6. So this is, and we're gonna see lots of Londons, guys. So you know, you definitely want to pay attention to how the London is handled. So far, we haven't seen great examples. 100% of the games we faced the London, we've won a piece in 8 moves. So that's all I can say. London has not been very successful against us so far. All right, this is our setup, but I like to get it by first going with knight to f3, then bringing the knight in, and of course now we want to push into e4, always taking back with the pawn. So he goes with the knight. Usually here I just like to go for the unpin, keep it simple. Like I said, always taking back with the pawn. Our bishop on e2, castling. Remember, we want to play this move c3, sort of all part of the plan there. h3 is a nice move to throw in, but once more, I'm just going to complete our setup here. Some nice pieces. He's a little bit fortunate that e5 doesn't work. I don't know if he's like spotted e5 and realized he has it covered. Maybe not, but either way, he does put the bishop on a pretty nice square there. Let's keep it simple and castle. Okay, we can go rook e1. At this point, though, is exactly where we usually start throwing the queenside pawns up the board. So definitely going to continue that with a4. I like rook e1 a lot. In this case, I think I'm probably considering a5 because we can follow up with knight c4. And yeah, opponent has held on to all their pieces. So in general, have to be happy for them. Knight there. Let's go rook e1. Defend this bishop, which will give me the power to capture. Next turn, he decides to take. I think we can take that back. Go for another trade. And also, don't tell him, but I'm threatening e5. I think he's going to see it, but that's all right with me. I'm pretty happy with how the position has gone so far. b4 looks normal. Chase that bishop away. And yeah, this is, I mean, he's played well, but again, I can't be too upset with the type of position that we got here, right? This is probably a position that I'd be happy to get every single time I play the opening. Got some queenside space. I'm bringing pieces into the middle, right? Got my rooks here. Space on the queen side. A bit more of a claim to the center. I got to be happy. Okay. Bishop d6, bishop e5, bishop g5, bishop h2. Lots of different ways to continue. I'll probably go here. Feels like cementing that piece in with a move like e5 could be pretty nice. Maybe there'll be a queen trade here, depending on what move he does. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I like that one a lot. Queen trade there. I'm very close to winning a knight, by the way. Knight can only go to g3 or f4 there. So what I think I actually might do is just try to close things up like this. Okay, he's rescuing his knight. I respect it. It is going to come maybe at the cost of that pawn right there. I think I'm probably going to continue this plan. All right, let's see if we can execute this plan here. Going rook d4, trying my best to cover that last square and then play g4. But, you know, once again, power to 21. Alexander. Ooh, man. That's what I've learned. Never hand out compliments. They play worse after. I've never handed out a compliment to a lower rated player and then seen them play a good move. Unfortunately, this move doesn't look like a big blunder, but it's probably up there with a pretty serious blunder. Just because the implication is so significant. Yeah, he's trying to get out of things. I don't think it's gonna work. Maybe we could even play this one first in order to potentially get a checkmate with a pawn. This might work. Obviously, taking here is the way to go, guys, but I have to say, I was interested in this one, thinking, okay, maybe there's a way to finesse a pawn checkmate here. Maybe h4 first. Let's see if we can get away with it. He's been playing well. Ah, gives us the satisfaction. GG. GG. Ending with a pawn checkmate. Very satisfying. Very satisfying. Even though we had a plan there, you know, I give you this position, and honestly, by the engine, this is like a +2, +3 position. Doesn't feel like it, but don't underestimate the power of gaining space over here. This is why it's one of the main plans in the middle game. So what's the point of playing this opening system? First of all, your first couple moves are taken care of, right? The whole system is this. You're already looking at it. D3, C3, E4 with the pieces developing like this. That's the system. From there, what do? Maybe H3 if we're being pinned. Castling for sure. Rook on E1 most of the time. Maybe on D1, but I like to leave that for the other rook. So rook on E1. And then it's time for A4, B4, maybe A5. This knight often jumps into C4, and from there, you're just in the middle game. You're in the swing of things. So it's not just a system where you play your opening moves, and then you're on your own. No, you play your opening moves, but then you're in a middle game where most of your middle game moves are going to be the same as well. The plans are very memorable. Let's continue. E4. You know that we like to play D6 in order to cover that. As soon as I play D6, I feel comfortable moving my knight to attack that pawn. It gets defended. White's playing well right now, but once again, we get to play our E5 move. White plays D5. I'm not too bothered by this. I think at this point, we just kind of castle, and we can still continue with C6. Nothing really stopping us from doing that. So, yeah, we've got our same setup here. Nothing changes. H3, very solid here. I think it's time to play C6. It could be a different move, but I think this is fine. Takes, we can recapture. We got a habits enjoyer here. Absolutely. I would say that D5 is probably not great from the opponent, but most of the other moves have been good, so can't say it's all been bad or anything. All right. Realistically, this move is probably not that good, but let's see. I wonder if we play here an A5, how White's going to react. I feel like this was to play bishop there, but I could be completely wrong. I'll play knight here, and maybe our bishop gets to E6. I was expecting that it would not. And after B5, I think A4 is a big problem here. But you can see, once we get our opening moves out, from there, we usually do stuff on the queen side, whether it's queen development, in this case, pushing A5. I didn't really have a B5 pawn to push, so that's why I didn't. But that makes a lot of sense. A4, how should we handle things? We can go bishop there. I would say most likely a move like D5 is where we want to go next with this position. I like a knight on C5. I love the move bishop here, but I don't like trapping my rook. That doesn't feel great. So I'm just going to continue with one of our more typical moves, Queen C7. I think I want to bring my rook like just kind of back to safety. Maybe bishop A6, and most importantly, a knight on C5, which has sort of been a staple of every position I've played so far. So I'll probably continue with that. Bishop A6 or knight to C5. Can't really tell which one I like more. All quick, full queenside play, though. I'm not even focused on the king side. I don't think there's anything happening over there. I will go ahead and make a good habits move. Keep everyone here proud. This rook can, go to d8 or b8. Needs to join the action at some point here. Ooh, that's a spicy move. Knight to h4. Damn. Credit where credit's due. Let's bring this rook most likely into the center. Knight g6. Probably just bishop f8 at that point. But yeah, I kind of expected knight h4. We'll drop our bishop back. And at this point, I'm just preparing g6. Queen f3. I would say that's another pretty good looking move. g6. There's knight takes h6. At this point, though, I'm starting to get interested in that move anyway, because I'm looking at knight takes h6, and that's already a threat. So at this point, I'm starting to get interested in g6 because I'm like, okay, the threats are starting to pile up here. There's no queen d8. At this point, I might have to play d5. All right, I guess it's like h5 or bust. I think we got to consider rook d7 and hand over knight takes h6, because I'm not at this point. I'm not really seeing a better way to handle knight h6. So I feel like giving knight h6 there to him made the most sense. But okay, knight h4. I guess continuing with queen f5 check. And queen f5 check. My opponent is going like just whole hog here. What's occurring here? There's no respect for the king side anymore. Let's trade this bishop, I guess. Oh my goodness. Probably could have also taken that one. I think that was reasonable. All right, 8 seconds and a dream. Opponent's been playing just banger moves. Like, probably going to come all the way back here. Unfortunate timing there. But it doesn't even play it. I was going to say, could have stood a chance looking for a fortress there. Let's get a nice... Well, I was going to say, maybe that's not the best pre-move. Let's see what we can do here. Ooh. Just crushed. Gotta hand it to the opponent, though. It was a nice game. I didn't really expect the moves to be that good. The moves were good. Knight h4. Gotta clap it up for this. As soon as knight h4 started, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Malone Ranger. Right? Flip the board. Didn't we just analyze a game like this? And all I was saying was like, holy smokes. Malone, you're killing it, dude. Knight f5, queen f3. Do you remember? We were looking at a game just like this, and I was like, oh my goodness. The guy's just like bringing out bishop g5, queen g3. Now, obviously, not the exact same position, but I couldn't really think of a good move here because king h7 drops this, and there's no good way to stop knight h6. So at this point, we kind of had to blunder. Opponent didn't see knight h6. So it's like you could feel that he wasn't quite seeing everything, but he was clearly playing some strong moves. Knight g6, obviously not the best, but hey, he maneuvered the knight in for another threat. You could tell there was like good stuff happening up there. He wasn't seeing everything. Mistakes were being made, but you got to respect. It was a guy that clearly knew how to think of threats. He wasn't always doing it in the best way. He missed knight h6. Knight g6 is obviously bad, but as soon as he didn't have a threat, what did he do? He made another threat. He was like, okay, boom, knight e2, knight g3, knight f5. Like, as soon as there wasn't a threat, boom, rook d2, he made another threat. So unfortunately, we end up blundering knight f7, but again, he didn't play knight f7. And then at the end, I was even thinking, okay, there's some chances for a checkmate here. You know, had we been really locked in, maybe we would have found some queen c5. All the pieces might be able to get in for a mate there, but just couldn't quite make it happen in time pressure. And I Vixra comes away with the win. All right. Not e4, but knight f3. I think knight f3 makes the most sense on move 1, just to stop e5. And then, as we know, I like to organize our pieces like this. e4. And to be honest, a lot of people develop early with this move. I almost always like to play c3 or c6 against it. I really don't understand the move. So I feel like this, in case there's any tricks, is probably involving this knight. So I'm just going to leave it there and castle. So we've got our system here. Again, takes, we always take back with a pawn. At least that's my plan. He decides to push forward. Let's, for now, complete our system. Queen c2. Bishop there. Pretty much any move like that will always tempt me with knight g5. Just if I can get my hands on the bishop pair, that's great. If not, no big deal. But he'll have to spend some time moving the bishop in that case. And in this case, he doesn't. So I'm happy to take. Can activate our knight. Not only does it open the bishop, but also, very nice follow-up to knight c4 is going to be a4. Now the knight cannot be removed. Just a feel-good move of the year. And for the moment, this pawn's in the way, so there's not even, like, he can line things up here, but the pawn's in the way. So there's not a lot that can happen after that. I feel relatively safe. But as I just indicated, it's all relative. Let's keep pushing. Maybe queen a4 and make some threats there. I suspect that this is the intention. I think there's a b4 pawn sack in my future. I can feel it. Okay, there's g5. On its own, though, g5 is not that dangerous. Even g4. I'm not feeling the burn just yet. Okay, b4, knight takes on... Sorry, takes on c3, and then maybe knight d4. So, still wondering where our great breakthrough is. And I think I'm going to end up deciding to take... And I like b4. Probably my next move. Yeah, it feels like... hey, we're both sending it. Respect. You just kind of mutually agreed. All right, you sending it? Okay, cool. I'm sending it as well. I'm sending it as well. Is it time for b5 or should we play bishop a3? I'm not sure there's a big difference, so... I'm going to play b5 myself, and then bishop a3. Unfortunately, that move probably just loses. Even though there's rook c8, yeah, you can't really do anything about that. And actually, I think we could play bishop takes instead of queen takes, because if rook takes there, you lose even more material. And everyone's tempted by, like, taking a queen, right? Bishop down. We do have bishop to d6 here. Forcing the king in the corner, which looks pretty nice. And with bishop e5. So I think we're probably going to go with that. There's bishop e7 as well. But I like the prospect of a potential mate in the corner. If I can arrange it. Who knows? Big Mo. Down a piece, but he's fighting the good fight here. Rook h6. Makes sense, definitely. Probably we should rescue this bishop. And what I might consider is bishop here, and then some kind of a6 and d5 checkmate. So let's start with this one. I'm assuming we're going to see b6. And then, I feel like bishop b3 kind of lays the, you know, discover check kind of trap. So I'm hoping that we might get something here. I'd love to deliver a mate like this, but I really need that knight to move. So I'm holding out for this. I'm hoping that it can work. I don't know if I'm... Okay, we ran him out of moves. Now we can go with the queen, go with the bishop, and we finally... I'm just trying to wait until it's like, maybe there's almost nothing left. Bishop takes here, right? Gets one move to make, and then we finish it off. More satisfying that way. Oh, good game to Mo. I was just trying to wait basically until he had to move the knight. He didn't truly have to. He could have moved his other pieces, but it just felt like the knight would be his first choice eventually. What happened in the opening? We basically got our setup here, which we can be happy with. And by the way, when d5 gets played, we're well within our rights to take that. But for the most part, I like just castling. Let it happen, let it push, it doesn't really matter. We can play around it, as you can see there. We often target the c4 square for our knight next. And if I ever see the early queen, I pretty much always respond with the pawn because it stops knight d4, it unpins the knight on d2. But yeah, c3 pawn really dominates the knight on c6, so it's kind of a good feeling there. Let's see here. e6, you guys know. Knight f6, you guys know. All right, bishop there. I'm done messing around. You're going to hang that pawn. I'm going to take it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Okay, we'll just take a step back. Could also go to c5, or could support the knight with bishop f5. But I just think that this is nice and simple. Okay, he's a sender, all right. Opening the H file right after playing G4 is that's a hell of a move, my friend. That's a hell of a move. All right. Let's see here. Suppose E6 makes sense. Could also play E5, but E6 feels very natural. And offer a trade here, of course. We're out material, so I feel like this trade makes a lot of sense. Queen f3. This could be very bad news for the opponent here. You can already see the makings of a free queen. Well, we didn't even need to do that. Yeah, knight e2 looked like it was always going to happen. And we'll take on f4 here, probably instead of taking, because now we win even more material. Or definitely better material. That's going to be it. I mean, there's not much to say about this. A lot of people hang their center pawn. I've gotten to the point where I'm past it. I'm like, look, if you're going to hang it, I'm going to take it. Simple as that. Simple as that. So what do they need to do here? They need to defend with the knight. And then we've had a position like this before. Bishop c4. Yes, this is the one moment. If you end up in this position where I would say be a little bit careful. So after knight there, if we're being honest, in this case, it makes much more sense to play e5. So this is true. Technically, I think e5, and I haven't necessarily been playing in this order in every game. So if I'm being real, I feel like this is what you need to play. Not because bishop c4 is like a big problem, but if you play e5, which you would naturally do because that's the system, you kind of run into knight g5. So if we're being nice and clean, e5 here, so that bishop there, we have bishop e7. And if d4, we just respond with knight d7 and transpose. So I'll try to make sure to play the absolute proper way. But for the most part, things have been transposing thus far. But as black, you have to be a little bit more careful when you play the opening. As white, it kind of doesn't matter. That's why you can get away with a lot more. All right, let's go knight to f3. Go d3, go knight d2. I don't know if bishop takes is on the cards, but happy to take back. And okay, we'll just, yeah, there's the queen. People love bringing this queen out. It's so interesting. Was not expecting that. Especially because this queen move really, like, I mean, we're just rolling with the pawns now. Thanks for the tempi. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, we're very happy now, getting a lot of open lines. Remember, as soon as you play your opening moves in castle, we're pretty much expanding on the queen side anyway. So the fact that people are castling into it is phenomenal. This is exactly what we want to see. Okay, queen there. At this point, yeah, things are bad. Things are bad. I might even bring this knight in. Some extra support here. Queen takes, knight b5, something like that. This looks like it's gone from bad to worse. Oh, didn't quite see the bishop there, so that'll probably wrap this game up. And yeah, with this hanging, but I'm probably not even going to take it. Probably going to start with the queen, because I'd rather have the queen in front for threatening checkmate on b7. Yeah, this is obviously over. Take this. Bishop takes and queen b7 is checkmate in a couple moves here. So at this point, though, there's nothing that black can do. Like, you can be hopeful, try to play some defense, and this is a good defensive move. But at the end of the day, you're probably getting mated somehow. Let's go d4 instead of trading. I think I'll just do this one. Yeah, I know that knight c3 is going to be played, and we'll probably blunder that. So I was wondering whether to allow it, but obviously this move looks simple enough, and king b8 will drop this, which will eventually get you mated on b7. GG. This Philidor setup, very nice. Always like to go for an early c3. Pieces go like this, but of course, given the nature of the position that black just castled, I'm in no need to play slow with like queen c2, castle, anything. So I'm just going to castle and then immediately send it. Like tempo, tempo. Rook there is technically a tempo because this is a threat, although black ignored it. And then as a result, they just lost very easily because you've castled right into all my action over here. I don't recommend that. Okay, e4. Let's play d6, d4, knight f6, e5. We're okay with that line. So we see this. Now it's time for knight d7. This one is okay because if bishop there, we can play e5 and there's no knight coming in. So this, in this case, we play with the knight. But if the pawn wasn't there and white played knight f3, then we would play with the pawn first. Hopefully that makes sense. Here, we just want to make sure we're ready to handle knight g5. And so by castling, we keep it nice and defended. Castles, let's do a little bit of the same. And this might be the first time that we sort of reach the opening, like conclude the opening phase with a very standard position, honestly. I really think so. All right, I've noticed a lot of people are really interested in this knight h4 move. It's kind of surprising. In this case, I'm a little more skeptical of it because knight takes e4 is, yeah, I think it can be played. So I'm a little suspicious of this one. Yeah, I think probably just do it. I mean, knight takes here seems to be the natural answer to knight h4. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Knight h4, knight f5. A lot of people going for that. I wonder where they saw that. Okay, so queen g4, not capturing here, not saving the knight. I don't know what to make of that. That's quite the idea. if I bring either knight here, I no longer win the piece on h4. So I feel like if I want to win the piece, I have to continue like this. But then he clearly wants to play this. So we actually have some things to consider here. Honestly, not really sure what the best option is. So I'm going to go with what looks like probably the safest. Just go here, attacking the queen twice. So you better move it. Queen f3 maybe. But at least the knight is no longer attacked. So somehow, some way, the move queen g4 was not the worst that you could come up with. I don't know how he managed that, but queen g4 looked awful. I think it's actually kind of okay. I'm thinking this all kind of looks decent. This one brings the queen there. I'm not sure what to make of that. My impression is that after queen g3, d5, bishop h6, that we're going to win that position. So I'll play the moves that seem to invite it. Because I feel like he just won't be able to... yeah, I was going to say, I feel like he won't be able to resist playing bishop h6. So I'll play the moves that lead right on into it. Who could resist bishop h6? It's a fancy move. I can't take it because of the pin. Gotta respect that. Queen e5. I think it's time to take this one. And after queen takes h5, I do have two pieces hanging. So there's no way we don't end up ahead a piece here. I'm already up one. I got two hanging right now. Which one do we want to take? I'm not exactly sure, but if we got this hanging, it seems to make more sense to take that. Also, the knight on h4 is still hanging. Unfortunately, he drops that one as well. Okay. I think let's keep it a little bit more simple and play bishop back. We are dropping this pawn, but we've been dropping it anyway. Yeah, I think we just want to move this king, move this rook, and he does end up going there. Feels like bishop g5 was the reason that that was not good. He walks into it. Mr. Stallone. It might be the end of the line here, my friend. Maybe f6. Hoping I take there. I would respect f6 for sure. 5 seconds left. I might play f6 here. Oh, we're not going to get a move. GG, Mr. Stallone. What happened in this one? Make sure to get that move order correct. Just be very diligent. Take your time with the black pieces. Make sure you get it right. In this case, we attack the pawn. It gets defended. Here, there's no knight f3. So we don't have to worry about the pieces teaming up there because that's 1, 2, 3 moves before that happens. And I have 1, 2, 3 moves, and then I can castle. So because it's my turn here, I will always be able to get developed. The one line you have to be a little careful of is when they play knight here and then knight here. And here, it's important to play e5. If you play knight d7, it's not a mistake, but here you just can't play the system properly. And okay, you'd have to play something like h6 and then e5. You could fix it and get there eventually. It's not the biggest deal, but for the purposes of playing the opening properly, e5 makes the most sense. If they play d4, then you go there. If bishop c4, you transpose and castle safely. If they play bishop c4 to start here, you're in trouble. So that's why we don't want to play knight d7 and instead here. And now if they play bishop c4, don't go knight d7, just play bishop e7 so that whenever knight g5 happens, you are ready to castle. And then everything's defended. And this transposes. All right, with the white pieces, the beautiful knight f3 move 1. d3, knight d2, e4. Very standard so far. I like our early c3. Just take care of a lot of squares that the knight would want to utilize. Bishop e2 feels correct. He does go for e5. Okay. This looks like a potential queen c2 moment, along with castling. Castling looks fine. Knight h6. Definitely got me thinking about h3 here, but honestly, if the knight goes there, then I'll play h3. I mean, what's it really doing? Yeah, what's it really doing there? I'm not too sure. So let's go for queen c2. We got a b4. We got an a4 move, right? Time to expand over here. That's what we always do. Play these opening moves, castle, and then we just kind of chuck some pawns up there. Knight c4 is a familiar square. Let's play that one. Bishop g4. I usually wait till moments like this to play the move h3 and just kind of see what's up. He decides to keep the bishop, which probably makes good sense. This knight is really no good, right? The knight on h6, man, that's a tough looking piece right there. I think I'm gonna play knight e3 because I kind of like the idea of knight d5. Wow, that is aggressive. That is a very aggressive move. I will play knight here, targeting that pawn. I mean, queen g6 walks into g4, but I'm not sure g4 giving him 2 pawns for the piece and sacking like that. I don't even know if that's better than the very simple knight captures on g5. So I'm kind of thinking that knight takes g5 is going to be much easier to play, and that's the move I'm going to go for. No need to win the piece when there's going to be some counterplay. I'm going to take this pawn for free. Looks like a clear edge to me, and go from there. Taking knight e6, rook f7 does keep things defended, so I'm probably not going to wedge that knight in there too quickly. So I'm just going to take here and bring the knight back.
I'm not the man you want. You've made a mistake.
It's possible he blunders and goes there, but if he plays the best move, rook f7, could be some trouble. Okay, goes f5. I suppose he's interested in that, but let's make sure to take this knight first and then grab on f5. That should be the best for us. Once again, nabbing another pawn. Okay, nabbing another pawn. I'm not going to stop. Check, yes, but maybe queen here might be a little bit better. It's hard to say. I think what I'm actually going to do is play it real simple. I'm going to check, and I'm either between knight there or queen g5, and I think queen g5 is just pretty dang good. I like this a lot. f4. Knight here takes, and knight c7 is going to be the threat. Also, if he plays king there, he's walking into knight f6 check. And this pawn is hit, so maybe we can play b3, but realistically, I don't think that pawn is terribly important. Let's go after this one, or maybe the very good looking rook d4. Completely dominating the knight, which is now trapped. Just go ahead and pick it up. Not a bad fight from our opponent there, but unfortunately just didn't develop properly. Played knight h6, like nothing really looked correct. Okay, take this. Probably bringing the rook down to a7, hide our king. We have checkmate, and he's not going to stop us, so we're going to play it. GG crook. Okay, he decided to take. Not bad. Anytime I play d3, e4, and they take, I'm really happy to take back. And yeah, this, once again, is very standard. We do this every single game. At this point, I'm just shoving a4, b4 up the board. Knight c4, h3 in the right moment, rook e1 in the right moment. Probably going to play those moves within the next 6 moves. And yeah, we just rerouted this knight. I basically have such a solid position that I don't really need to do anything. You never see me in a rush to develop this and bring the rook to the center. You often see me just get to this position and then, okay, maybe it's time to reroute the knight a little bit, or maybe it's time to just expand with the queenside pawns. Like, the position that you get is so solid that you don't need to be in a rush to like do all the conventional things like completing development. No, this bishop can stay on c1 for so long. All right, knight f3. Okay, and there's that e5 move. Unfortunately here, there isn't really an e4 to play, so we're going to go straight into this. And our opponent is going to play e5. God, it makes me sick that they get away with this. Especially because knight takes e5 here, although it's still fantastic. Technically, there's king d7 to play. So it kind of it goes down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to go into it. Okay, bishop there. I will go into this rabbit hole, which is knight takes d4. And knight takes back on e2. That's just a simple tactic there. Good to know. If the bishop's not defended and you can grab something in the center, that works out pretty nicely. Okay, knight there. Let's castle. Knight into the center. I mean, he's interested in these trades. Sure. Let's keep the tempi up. If he wants to take here and let me take b7, be my guest. But he does not. He goes c5. Well, I'm not too sure how to respond. I think I'm going to play b4. But at this point, guys, you're up material. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Let's take... the opening has already set you up for success. Take, we'll grab b7. Looks like we're in a good position here. I imagine black's going to play the move knight e7. I don't really see why not. Yep, it does get played. Now what? c3 and d4 comes to mind. But I'm actually interested in keeping the king in the center, trying to prevent him from castling. So I think I'm gonna do this. Queen takes, so that you can't castle. Gotta watch out for your knight. Buddy, wait a minute. You're not stream sniping and listening to me? You should have been. I was trying to warn you. Rook down to b7. I think with knight e6, we're close to setting up our checkmating pattern, but we're going to need one thing. What's that one thing? It's most likely an escape square. That's right. We can throw this in, but nothing's more important than the all-important escape square. Yeah, once we have this, it's all good. We can just bring the rook down and deliver mate. He's doing the same thing. Too little, too late. Rook down, and there will be checkmate here because the knight is covering the escape. So I think this will be a forced mate now, although we have given up the most important thing, the spite check. If he plays rook d1, we lose the game. It's a spite check. He resisted, and we're able to claim the win. All from the opening, really, on this one. I mean, yeah, we're getting our setup in, and we found a nice tactic that he made available to us after bishop g4. And that's just a good one to know. But had he played another move like knight c6, hopefully you would know how we would play the middle game here. Castling, c3, queen c2, maybe a4, b4, h3, maybe rook e1. And at that point, go from there. Maybe b5, bishop a3, bishop b2, take in the center, knight c4. Everything's very similar, right? So that's why I'm saying no matter what black plays against you, you should have a very good idea how your middle game will look, because it looks the same almost every time. Okay, e4, we play d6. We want to play knight f6. That comes next. And now, we may just have to pay attention to what our opponent does. So If it's one of these two moves, then I'll probably play e5. Yeah, so here if I play knight there, knight f3, e5, knight g5. Kind of a problem. So I'll make sure to play this move, e5 first. Key. Now if knight f3, bishop e7. And if d4, although I could take, sure, looks fine. I think what I'm going to do is play knight d7. And again, knight f3, bishop e7. Okay, he goes ultra aggressive with f4. I respect it. Some other positions I talked about playing c6 against this, but now I suppose it's about time we played one or two positions where we take, because that will happen. People will play like f4 and d4, and at some point you might have to take. So let's castle. Knight g5. Not threatening anything that I really care about, but still a menacing move. c6 definitely comes to mind. Also thinking about knight b6, although bishop b3 handles things just fine. Yes, c6, h6. All these moves I'm liking. I'm liking c6 because maybe I would even consider just d5 afterwards. So those are the moves that are coming to my mind. Yeah, c5 in general I would stay away from unless there's a kind of a step-by-step situation about to happen where I win some material. So yeah, I might play just c6 here. This feels like a nice slow move. And yeah, h6 next. Definitely feels like it. Unfortunately, opponent blundered here. Maybe bishop e3 was a bit better, but we'll play d5 because we have bishop c5. A really nice thing to keep in mind, especially because a lot of the times when you take on d4, they will take with the queen. And if they're playing an f4 system, the likelihood of them blundering a queen like this is very, very high. Oops. And yeah, d5 will always come with tempo, so they'll never really see this coming or have any chance to react. Once you play d5, it just will lead to a win no matter what. Even if they see this coming, they play king h1, you just snag a free bishop, no problem. I have a feeling that we may be winning that bishop anyway. Yep. I have a feeling after we take on c4, we could be checkmating afterwards. I had a lot of feelings. My feelings were all correct. GG to JP Handy. That was only 14 moves. It could have been a much longer game, but we got some exposure to a system with f4 and d4. Yes, it's a lot of pressure on the center, but for the moment we can maintain with this. But as soon as that extra piece gets added, yeah, we take. And of all the pawns to take, I like taking in the center. Castling is necessary. We need to do this. Knight g5, c6. This is a really good move to play, and I think just the best move. I would recommend it at all times. There's so many reasons why I would play this. Let's say bishop e3 happens. I would play d5. I know it seems like a lot, but this is exactly the kind of activity that you're looking to get. White's not castled. We have d5, bishop c5. We're like coming in with tons and tons of threats here, and it's immediately working out. You mean the e4 pawn, Matt? Or like, you mean hold this pawn here? I guess so. I mean, white could play e5. Very much possible. Something like this could happen, which would be, you know, very, very aggro. Bad news here. If we take at this point, it's also probably fine, but I would say white's getting more than he deserves for this. So I think something like this, knight b6 or bishop f6. And at this point, I'm losing this pawn, but most likely getting c6, d5, shutting the bishop off. And yeah, playing with bishop c5, knight f2, like just going for counterplay at this point. Probably knight b6, I would say. Okay, the bishop moves, and like at this point d5 or even almost c5, c4, or c6, d5. I think white has to be careful here. Bishop f6 with d5 to follow. King's still in the middle, so I'm even concerned about this queen check. But basically, white has to be ready to play a very wild game all of a sudden with e5. And with the king in the middle, I generally would welcome a wild game. Okay, we're going with knight f3 first, then d3, then knight d2. And you guys know it's time for e4 next. Okay, yeah, the early queen move, not particularly convincing. Again, as always, knight on c6, love to play the move c3. People are all over this knight h6 move. I think early I'm going to play this just because I can see that if he castles, he's going to be blundering. So that looks like a pretty smart thing to do. And now queen a4 kind of forces the king to go there. I don't know. It's just bad news all around here. d4, trying to play d5, but also trying to play bishop to b5. Nothing looks good. Everything looks dead lost here. I think knight takes d4 first. Makes sense, especially because if my opponent plays this, we can just take, and we're making the same threat again. But on top of that, we could also take with a knight, and then most likely win the queen. But this is a big problem here. I think black is basically lost. Okay, opponent agrees. Always nice when you and your opponent are on the same page. Yep, but that was very easy because just target that pawn. There's no bishop there. The queen f6, knight h6 stuff is a very weird development. Shouldn't be successful. And we're a mere one game away from the promised land. All right, let's see if we can get there with the white pieces. Knight to f3. Guys know, d3, knight d2, e4. Here we are. Bishop there. Yeah, we've seen these before. Remember, on knight c6, guess what? We're playing c3. A lot of opponents doing this. It's almost going to be the same game. Kind of want to play queen b3 again, maybe. But yeah, c3 we like. It's a good feeling. Okay, he goes for h6. Very solid move there. On queen b3 now, technically things can be defended, like with rook b8. I'm probably still going to poke around there and just see how he wants to handle it. Because a lot of people just play b6, and once again, b6, you know, I'm interested in this queen a4. This is not something that, this is a tough position to be in. I'm going to play d4 once again and bring that bishop to b5, and opponent is just going to be crying here. Crying out for help. 2 times the exact same continuation was very successful. Let me take that with check. Probably going to take this just because it hits the queen. Although this rook is also hanging here. Okay, it goes back. I'm thinking of probably just not taking that. My bishop is so strong here. I have a feeling we'll probably be able to get a checkmate at some point here. Yeah, just gonna kind of pile on in the middle and play e5. That has to lead to mate. I'm sure of it. I'm not even like calculating anything there. Just must be mate. Must be mate. This one first. Maybe rook here first. That looks pretty smart. And yeah, definitely e5 next. Very hard not to play that. Yeah, I think even still, we want to play this move, but pausing. Not concerned about knight c5, but more just pawn takes and maybe what happens after that. But I think this is a move you have to just play. You can't, as soon as you start thinking about it, you know, the first step to overthinking is thinking. So let's remove the middleman. Probably we can just sack the queen here. I mean, it's possible that he takes this, but it's very likely he takes the queen and provides us with a satisfying double check and mate, but maybe an even more satisfying double check and mate this way, not even taking the bishop. GG to Daniel there. And yes, of course we take KOs, not just for that nice checkmate, but specifically for hitting 900. This is a big milestone for us. This is a big moment. This game, again, we've been getting this position with white a lot. A lot of people are playing bishop g4 and just taking us. Hey, be my guest. I'm not doing anything to provoke. I'm not even playing h3 most of the time. They're just taking. Happy to take back. c3 I like getting out as my next move. I can castle at will, so I'm very safe here. And then I have been recently throwing this in because a lot of players don't react properly. They give away their light bishop, and then they play b6. And after queen a4, you're just in huge trouble here. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode of the Philidor speedrun. This opening has been super successful for me, and I hope you guys are experiencing the same elo boost. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already and turn on post notifications so you do not miss our next upload. I'll see you guys in the next one.